Hi, Aidan. Thanks for joining me again. This is part two in our long-running series. First one was back in November, December 2025. How are you doing today?
Great, Ryan. It's good to have you again. Glad we could finally get back to this. I know we tried a couple times and the
Yeah,
timing finally worked out for us. So yeah, I'm
amazing.
excited to talk about the progress.
And linking to our last conversation, we met at a Scaffold Institute indie game developer conference in Calgary. David Gratton and I did a one-day session on agentic engineering. Um, all game devs in the room. David at the time had uh, had one example of a very small team, four people pursuing to build a AAA game. I think he had said in GDC 2025 that this is the opportunity for indie game devs to have scalable engineering team through agents. Um, and that domain expertise was going to be like a big limiter. And so you, after like 4 6 weeks after that workshop, like banged out a POC. And so maybe I know it's a bit of time, like looking back now, but can you take us
Yeah.
back to like December, January, and like where you were after our call? Um, what was going on? What's the game? What were you trying to achieve at that stage?
So at that stage right after, so we had that, I think it was October or something like that. So yeah, within a month or two, November, end of November, November like 24th or something was the first commit I pushed.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to try your guys's procedure and templates with the design templates. I forget what you named them exactly, but there was some super solid documents we went over, and I just wanted to recreate them and kind of lean into game dev instead of like web design stuff. So we used Lovable and whatnot in your demo, but obviously I didn't need that at all. So I just leaned really hard into the other documents. I forget they were called, the design document and something like that. But
Yeah.
there was two. What were they again?
Product requirement document,
Hmm.
implementation plan, architecture plan.
Cool. Yeah. So I don't even know if I did the architecture plan or I did. I just named it differently. But
Yeah.
so after that, the first day I leaned really, really hard into documentation. So we had an idea for the game. So we threw together the GDD and then the
The
required,
game design document.
yeah, the game design document exactly, which is normal for every game that you're trying to make to show other people really quickly what the game's about and to keep yourself on track and create your roadmaps and whatnot. So I started with that, with the game idea, fleshed out a huge game design document, which is super, super, super outdated now. I think we're on version 4 of the game design document now, which usually you shouldn't do. You shouldn't like refactor the game design document, but we did this all so fast that our game idea just ended up changing so many times, like so majorly too. We went from a co-op game to strictly PvP now, and we were avoiding having PvP player versus player and any combat for months and months because we knew it would be a whole can of worms if we opened up combat now. We have to do balancing and avoid cheating and all that stuff.
Mm.
So we were avoiding it super heavily.
So
And in
back
the
in like
last
January or so, you were still framing the game a certain way, or like when did you
well,
start to like pivot the game you intended to design?
we pivoted. We've probably done like four really big pivots where all of a sudden the game changed huge overnight, and then the next week or two we spent all of our time refining that new mechanic, and
Okay.
then we pivoted again. So probably 3 or 4 times we really changed the game idea.
Yeah.
I would say we settled on our game idea about a month ago.
Okay.
So up to that 5 months was experimenting and throwing it all together.
Can you take me
The
back to
first
one of the first ones? Yeah.
Yeah, so the first few days was all documentation. The first week, the first 2 days, I'm gonna say, was all like purely documentation, getting everything in plan, the structure of how I wanted to be built, the mechanics, the GDD, all of the templates we went over. So just lots and lots of documentation, finding market competition and analysis and all the good stuff. So we can make like pitch decks and whatnot really early on.
Mm.
And then by the end of day two, probably even a little bit of day one, I'm just already it's like fluffy because it's a few months back.
Yeah.
But I got into the development really, really quick. I think it was day two, the second half of day two. I got into the multiplayer mechanics and the proximity voice chat,
Mm.
and then the basic scene management and the player controller. There was like a day and night cycle, basic HUD, like heads up display and whatnot.
Mhm.
Within the first day, that stuff is really, really easy to do, especially because I had a couple projects that I could easily pull code from already.
And just for some context here, indie game dev, there's a small number of you, right? Like you're primary with a bunch
There's
of contractors.
I myself am a contractor right now,
Yeah,
working for a couple studios. One of them
right.
is in Calgary here, Fortress Games,
Yeah.
who introduced me to the workshop with you guys, and I'm
Okay.
still working with them as senior developer right now. We just pushed out to publishers and stuff, so that's looking pretty good. And then I was working full time with a Minecraft studio, but pivoted from that, and now I'm spending all of that time right now working on this game.
Okay.
And right now it's just me and my other buddy, the other developer.
Okay.
So it's just
Perfect.
two of us.
Two people, indie game
Uh,
devs, also
yeah.
working for, studios. So
So
this ends up being like
he's
passion project. January, February, you started to like have a first big pivot. Um, Maybe just for context then, for anyone who's not used to this level of like scaling indie game dev with agents, can you tell us about like the current state of the game, how you're thinking about it, and then we can kind of like unpack how you got to there?
Yeah, so the current state of the game is feeling really good now. We settled on enough mechanics that we're stripping the game down so much. So the project itself was 15, 17 gigabytes, I think. And we stripped it down to 3 gigabytes. So we got rid of so many assets because we had so many like textures and 3D models and visual effects and sounds that were all eating up so much of the project. So it would load slowly. It was like 5 gigabytes to download the project.
Mm-hmm.
Now you download the project for a gigabyte, and the actual project itself is only 3 to 5 gigabytes, 3 gigabytes, I think, right now. So we're in a really good state where we settled on our mechanics and we're stripping all of the other mechanics out. I've actually used Claude to take all of these features that I've built up to this point, like hundreds of little mini mechanics from a jumping ability where you jump on a platform and it launches you up. There's like a trampoline mechanic or an item physics mechanic where you can pick up and throw items. Um, Tons of health mechanics since it's a originally it was supposed to be a game about scouts and you were just looking for items. We've pivoted now to where you're sorcerers with spells. So the spells, I've been able to make so many little mini mechanics with the spells, like floating you in a bubble or launching you off the map with like physics again.
Mm-hmm.
So shrinking you to a certain size. So tons of mechanics for scale and transformation and all this stuff. So I've taken that out from Alcurio now into a separate repository for our studio, where now we just house a crap ton of mechanics in this little studio
All right.
because they're just bloated now in Alcurio, which is the game we're working on.
Okay.
It was called Bramble Scouts originally because you were scouts, and like it's changed like crazy.
Yeah.
So it's Alcurio now. Starts with an A, so it should be good for Steam Next Fest coming up here. It'll be at the top of some lists.
Excellent. This
Uh,
conversation will be posted once you have the live link. We should get that in the comments.
100%, yeah, let's do it.
Alcurio then
So,
is like where you
mhm,
landed. Can you
mhm,
talk a little bit about the because it's a pattern that we're watching closely with agentic engineering is it adds all this capability, 17 gigabytes with like explosion of game mechanics. You then have a convergence phase. You're then throwing the seats out of the van you no longer need
mhm.
because you have like focused and conviction. Can you talk us through some of those like main points in the arc that helped you converge on Alcurio?
Sure. And so, firstly, I don't even think that it was the agent, and it was Claude. It's almost strictly this entire process. It's been Claude, and it's been Opus for the most part, just following along with their updates. But I don't think it's been Claude creating a crap ton of these mechanics and bloating it for me. Those were all just individual mechanics that I would literally do one by one with four or
Okay.
five terminals open and saying, I want this, I want this, I want this. So the bloat came from just us wanting a crap ton of things to test and do. It didn't come from it hallucinating and giving us mechanics. I
Right.
wasn't like, study this game, create some fun mechanics for it. Like they were all intentional and one to one mechanics that we thought of. So it was a crap ton of terminals open all the time.
Right.
But yeah, the bloat didn't come from the agent. It was like super precise
More
throughout
like
a lot of this
your
process.
wish list
Hmm.
in the hands of agents,
Yes,
delivering on wishes all day, every day.
exactly, exactly.
Okay.
And I just had separate prompts, separate terminals, 4 or 5 terminals that I just shuffle through all the time. I got some nice plugins so I can see when they're done and if there's a question pop up or whatnot. So I could just be bumping around the house doing stuff while all these mechanics are individually building.
Yeah.
So yeah, the bloat didn't come from that. So the arc to get to where we are now with the agentic, is that what you're wondering?
Yeah, from the initial POC, uh, you got a massive feature expansion,
Mhm.
starting to learn and converge. Maybe just talk us through some like the big learnings along the way, operating in this way with two of you and access to agentic engineering.
So with two of us, our team right now is perfect because he's my buddy Jared isn't even a developer at all. He's not a game developer at all.
Mm,
So he didn't even touch Unity at all before this in November. He just downloaded it. No experience with game development at all.
mm,
Um, he's a graphic designer by trade and does 2D art and illustrations. And he can do visual effects and whatnot, but mostly graphic 2D art. So he's really good at vector art. So he's done all of our logos and all of the HUD, all of the UI. So he's done a ton of the design and he's been doing a lot of the art direction. So he's good at picking out and finding the assets to use and meshing them together, finding the right lighting and whatnot. So he didn't have to touch Claude or the project documents or files hardly at all, like literally hardly at all, even still with our second game. And if he does have to touch anything, we could just easily make editor tools for it now, where he can do things super easily. Um, so the separation with using AI with just two of us is pretty damn easy because he just doesn't need to touch it. I'd imagine like with my other team with Fortress, most of us are touching the code all the time. So we're always on separate branches. We're having merge issues a lot of the times because we're overwriting and overlapping because not all of us are super in tune with how to use it, especially with Claude when we're pumping out dozens of commits a day or something like that, multiple different branches or workspaces. So that's a different story. But with just the two of us in Alcurio, and since we've been using AI right from the beginning, it's been part of our process the entire time. So whenever Jared needs to do something, like he always just needs to ask me if it's possible for the most part. Like if he's doing UI, he's saying, "Can this scroll this way, or can this be this big? Can this overlap with this?" And he just asks basic questions from the design perspective,
mm,
and then I can either create it in a prompt very quickly, or we already have the skills to create it because we're this deep into the process now, or we make editor tools at this point. So we're making editor tools all the time where I have multiple skills now that super easily know how to make the editor tools, um, how to optimize them, where to put them and store them, if we should flush or remove them afterwards. So we're not getting a bunch of bloated editor tools now.
right.
So that's been a huge breakthrough lately is making this new game, this dropper game this past weekend here. I'm not even am I hardly coding anything at all anymore. I'm barely in engine at all anymore. Like I'm not using Unity's MCP or Unity AI at all. But with being able to create the editor tools, I'm basically creating like a poor man's MCP where I'm getting it to create these editor tools and then I alt tab back to Unity, it refreshes and compiles and doesn't do anything. But now I have this toolbar on the top where I can go El Curio dash set up multiplayer scene, and it takes all my scripts and it does game object dot add component, um, and then adds my scripts to it. So I can just click that editor tool drop down and it sets up my entire scene. Let me actually find a video
It's been
really
great to
quick that I
see
that I
because
sent to Jared.
you're kind of describing this maturity I'm seeing in product teams and engineering teams where after getting through the initial phase of vibe coding and like helpful to like see some concepts, then you get into the engineering part. Like how do I get this all through a pipeline? And you established a pipeline, and then you kind of get more opinionated with the way you want to work, and you start to form like skills and workflows. And you just said like specific tools, like you're actually building the way you said that. I want to see it as like a UI for stuff that you're doing all the time. And I can feel the gamer like playing StarCraft and having all my like keys, all my key bindings, like you know, control one and whatever, like all those like fleet operator things I want to see and do. So you've gone like platform engineering, like the
Oh,
platform and infrastructure is now in place, so you can converge on your ideas and scale up, like ops. So you keep kind of moving up levels to build the game. Do you have
Exactly. And we've
anything like you can like pull up and show?
I'm gonna show you right now. So this is a
Okay.
really cool video. Just give me a sec here. This is an example of one of the editor tools and how I had placeholder UI. And then this is really cool, actually. So this is why I've barely had to do any in-engine stuff, because I could do something where I make it this editor tool where it automatically sets up all the components in the scene. So it's basically doing exactly what an MCP would be doing, except as soon as I recompile Unity or Unreal, it would do it all automatically. Right
Okay.
now, I'm kind of just skipping the MCP step and creating the editor tool so that I have a manual like touch on it and I can do it when I want to and it doesn't automatically compile stuff. And so it's basically doing what an MCP would do.
Right. Do you
Um,
want to share your screen?
yes. Is that good? You could see
Yeah.
that?
Beautiful.
Okay, so this is so for this step here, you could see, I'll skip ahead a bit. So tools, dropper, this is our second game dropper. And then these are some of the editor tools. So build to the player animator, build the emote wheel, wire all of the audio. So I would give it all, I would point it to the folder of all of my audio assets and then point it to all of my scene components and say which components don't have audio connected, connect the audio very simply. It has the GUIDs for all of the scripts and all of the files. So it just connects all of these things by the GUID. It doesn't need to know the actual component name or any of the contents at all. It just connects the GUIDs.
And just for
So I
clarity,
have,
like in a large studio, you'd have a lot of this built over time. It's just that
hmm
you've built it for yourself with
hmm
Claude to have
hmm
this like
yeah,
game development kit.
yes, exactly. So that
Okay.
was the idea from the start, but I didn't. I mean, it's taken months, first of all, to just get situated with how to use Claude properly. I remember I was using it with the desktop overlay and stuff, and now I'm just using it in terminal. It's just the procedure in general has gotten so much cleaner and easier with Claude. And
Mm,
now we're at Opus, just keeps getting better and better.
right.
But with Alcurio, I didn't have editor tools like this until months into development. So I was using Claude the first few months for really making sure all of the documents were super in tuned and relevant so that for the next prompt that I ask, it has really good context of the project. My Claude file is up to date. My skills are all up to date. All my documents are up to date.
Yeah.
There's front-facing documents for me and then back-end documents for its own context. So that was huge part of Claude. I guess that was the first breakthrough I had is that we were doing, or the first usage I was using of Claude was just really connecting all the documents so that the context was super good.
Mm,
Because the prompting was still super clean and easy, but it would be hallucinating or it would be a lot of the time trying to make a mechanic based off of old information. So lately, I was asking for new spells, and it still thinks the game is co-op,
uh,
or it thinks in some instances it's single player, or that we have a chest when we don't have chests anymore. So
right.
the out-of-date documents were really starting to screw me at the end there. And
Yes.
I just, with pruning the project, we just went from 17 gigabytes down to 3.
Yeah.
That not only does it make it easier around the project, now I know what we actually do and don't have. So I spent a whole day, maybe like half a day. Claude always says this is going to take 1 to 2 days, and it's like 30 minutes or an hour. So it's never super, super long. It's just a matter of time. So I
Yeah.
pruned the crap out of my documents. They're all super relevant now. They're all connected to my socials, links, and it's all up to date as it could be right now with the project pruned like crazy. But still on Alcurio, I barely have any editor tools like this at all. Like we're just getting into them the past month, I would say, where
Okay.
I'm realizing that I barely need to do anything in even in Engine because we could just make the tools for it outside of Engine, recompile, and then run the tool.
Very
Like
cool.
I don't have to drag in cubes or recolor or rematerialize anything.
Yeah. Do you want to play this through? I'm very really excited just to see
Yeah, so
the
exactly.
progress.
Just keep me on track here because I'll ramble off topic. But so this is an example quick before I get into it about how we used an editor tool, and I'm asking it to repaint our main UI right here. I have all of the textures already in the project under a folder called main menu. And then my buddy, he did all of the UI in Photoshop. So he gave me all the individual elements, the button, the font, the hover, the title, all of that stuff. And then he took a screenshot in Photoshop of the reference of what it should look like. So I put the reference and all of the individual components into a folder in the project and then said, you have all of the main menu UI assets here. You have the reference of what it should look like exactly here. Put them together very simply. And then I said, make an editor tool for me to put these all together.
Great. Let's see
Bam, instantly,
it.
just like that. So I just run the tool. The tool was build main menu scene and then skin main menu. So building the main menu scene built all of the buttons and then connected all the buttons. Skinning the main menu scene obviously skinned it with the correct UI.
Hmm. Fascinating. Like just reskinning a project can be
Yes.
a whole
Oh my
effort.
gosh. So this would have taken me, and I would have done this in El Curio a couple months ago, is go into the folder and drag each image in and then make center it properly and do all that. And that would have taken a good 2 hours if I'm trying to do it properly.
Yeah.
This took literally a minute.
And just for clarity here, you use Claude to build the scripts and make that UI available in your
Hmm.
own tool set. And then like regular code is like running scripts to then deliver this.
Um, so it's that what's the one-time script that's made. So it makes the editor tool,
Yeah.
which connects with this toolbar up here with the little menu, and then that script is all static and
Yeah.
runs one time. So it
That's
doesn't
yeah.
need to continuously running or compiling. It's just a one-off. So I use
Yeah.
that tool once, and then I can go delete the editor script.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
This
only
is
yeah.
getting clear for a lot of people who've been fully AI pilled is that it doesn't need to be AI all the time. In fact, getting a lot of scripts that can all work together and like more just like compute, like scripts running on hardware, um, makes the whole thing more efficient and it'll just work. You know, it's
Hmm.
deterministic code versus like having that like generated, like Gen AI, you probably don't want because you want it compliant to your brand and it needs to do certain things in certain ways.
Hmm.
Is that correct from what I'm seeing?
You'll have to clarify a little bit. I'm not
Sure.
100% sure, but it sounds about right.
Yeah, like you use AI to write the code and then you just run the code. You're not using AI
Hmm.
each time you run one of these scripts.
Oh no, exactly. So I do it manually for
Yeah,
sure. So I like that static script and then being able to do the one-time use and then delete it afterwards.
right.
But I'm sure I could take this like a step further where there's the intermediary scripts where once this skin UI tool is done, or
Hmm.
once the build UI tool is done, then it automatically skins it. Then it automatically headlessly runs it and tests the buttons. Then
Yeah,
it automatically gives me back the output logs and stuff like that. I'm
right.
sure that's where I'll be at very soon, but
Yeah.
already with how quickly this dropper project was made, it's kind of hard to move my brain any faster and not being able to double or triple double check stuff. You know what I mean? Like there's already stuff I'm not even double checking because it just works perfectly. So
Mm,
you don't need to go look into the code and figure it out.
right.
So I'd imagine if there was like multiple dynamic steps where this was just invoking automatically, like one after another, there would be things that I would be completely missing.
Do you want to
So I feel
play
like
forward? Is there more in this that you wanted to highlight?
so all of the buttons are working perfectly. All of the hover is working. The
Yeah,
sound effects are working for the buttons.
nice.
They each have their own pages.
Okay.
So I didn't even have to give it every single button. Like this drop down right here, we didn't have an asset for the drop down. So we just made this asset and then plugged in our font.
Yeah.
And there's a few things that aren't perfect, like in this, the settings page is coming soon.
Yeah.
But then I went back to El Curio where I have a perfectly fine settings page where the settings are actually working in code. So the volume bars are working, the full screen toggle is working, look sensitivity, it's all working and plugged in. And I have this both projects under the same root folder under our studio name. So I just tell Claude we have a perfect settings page with the settings UI. It's already in its own prefab file. Everything you need for settings is right here. Go into El Curio and grab it and give it to me in Dropper. And then I set it up with the same styling, use our Dropper textures, and easy peasy.
Great. Um, awesome. So I'm guessing this is like a Steam asset. Okay. Now you're gonna take us into the game.
So I didn't realize how far the video went, but yeah, so
Yeah.
this is the game. So it's supposed to be, well, this is the first iteration of it. So it's a little clay game where you're little clay models, and it's very, very simple. This is a spawn room, and then you just drop through an infinite faller. There's quite a few popular like Minecraft mini games, Roblox mini games where you jump into a tube and you just fall, 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 fall forever, and you just dodge hazards on the way.
Okay.
I could show you in a sec here,
That's great.
but yeah.
Let's see this. I'd love to see the teaser video.
So
Just walk me through this, and then let's like go back into like what's now possible with agentic engineering? Small team,
Sure. Yeah.
big horsepower, and like get into the capabilities that you've been able to achieve this spring summer.
Cool. Okay, so this is going back to El Curio. So this is the first game. So we're and this is actually quite out of date now too. I can pull up the exact project if you actually I can we can play test it right here. I'll just pull it up. So both of these games are on Steam. This is the dropper game right here. This is El Curio. This is El Curio demo. So both of these are signed up for Steam Next Fest coming up here. The
Okay,
idea was to just do El Curio for quite a while. It was supposed to be a 4 month project. It's already taken 7 months.
but you've built
Um,
three games.
well, two. So we have the demo. El Curio demo is this, but it's
Yeah,
yeah, it's not nearly as much of the
okay.
content.
That's
So this
awesome. And we
dropper one,
probably
we
like
just
should have
figured,
like I probably should have like led with that in October you were building one game. You did a
yeah,
workshop. A month later, it's like, hey, I got a POC for this one game. You pivoted and then you built two games.
yeah, I think that's a huge point.
Okay.
Exactly. Because I genuinely ran out of things to develop because even with the hundreds of mechanics that we did had, we pruned probably 80% of it. We're left with like 10 main verbs and mechanics now. So
Okay.
the game is a lot easier to understand and it's a lot more lean. Um, yeah, frick.
Yeah. Do you want to just walk us through this right now? This is great.
Sorry, I was just trying to, yeah, gather my thought there. Oh yeah, so with Alcurio, I ran out of being able to make the mechanics and literally got bored and didn't know what to do anymore.
Mm,
And Jaden, my girlfriend, was still away at work, and I was like, well, I got a couple days to grind my ass off. So my buddy gave me another idea for this dropper game, and I was able to take so much infrastructure and my knowledge with Claude now to build a dropper super, super quickly. So
mm,
that was ideally what I wanted to do with Alcurio, but just didn't have the resources and knowledge to do it. So this game, for the most part, is vertical slice demo. We purchased the music, we purchased the splash art here. So we in total, we've probably spent around $800 on assets and the music, sound effects, and art here.
right. Amazing.
We'll we'll skip this lobby here. We're messing with the lighting right now, so it's quite bright in that lobby here. But this is the style that we're settled on right now. And for the most part, all of the mechanics that we want are in. So the player controller is working perfectly fine. There's a nice double jump. The player controller took a couple iterations to settle on as well, because again, we didn't want the game to have any spells or combat at all. So it was just basic movement. And now there's a nice double jump where you can juke people. There's the spells where you can cast your wand spells. And now there's a bunch of spells that you can pick up right here.
That's
This has
incredible
been,
that you did this on $800 of assets. That's
oh
like
man, it's
like
and it
buying
it
one
is and it
asset and
isn't.
that's just like all the game assets.
Mm. For the most part, yeah, we purchased one asset. We purchased the bushes here and the trees,
Okay.
but everything else, Jared's been able to hand make because while I'm working on other mechanics or pruning into the other project or something like that, he's able to do. And since we settled on an art style, which took so much iteration, now he can just pump out these assets so fast while I'm working on mechanics. So the idea is to sell this game for $8. It goes up to 6 players. You can all play in this, and you versus each other. There's one objective where you go around collecting items. Like there's a couple items floating around on the ground that you can find, and then there's these processors that you go upgrade the items at, and then you throw the upgraded items into this cauldron here, and then this little UI Arcana bar goes up. So it's a quota game. So all of you are trying to fill up your quota by gathering items and throwing them into the cauldron here, but you'll be versing each other with now instead of the original idea was that it was co-op, so you would do it together. So you go around doing puzzles together, finding and collecting items, just like Lethal Company or Repo, which are other really popular quota games. Um, we realized that co-op building was really hard because of nothing to do with AI, but generally designing the puzzles and designing the actual gameplay was out of our ballpark at the time. We didn't know exactly what the mechanics were or how we wanted the game to work. So designing for co-op became pretty hard, and it was easier to just design for PvP because if we gave you just a couple spells to mess around with each other and some basic attacks to be doing this exact same thing, but now you're versing each other. It made development quite a bit easier, to be honest. And with more market analysis, we realized that there are no games right now that do PvP quota like this.
Hmm.
So we leaned really hard into now the PvP mechanics, the spell mechanics, item gathering, item upgrading, and attacking each other. That's basically it. It's a very straightforward loop now.
We're covering a lot of ground, but you raised this a couple times, so I just want to unpack it. you're an indie game developer. You and Jared.
Yeah.
A couple of times you've referenced like market analysis. How are you doing that? Like
So
you're finding like niche gaps for where there aren't currently games where you think this will be an opportunity because there's some white space there.
Well, with how Jared took this approach and with how I took it as I wanted to start a new commercial game with using AI and development. So I was going to use it as much as I could. So with my market analysis, I was finding game ideas that worked already, that are proven to have worked. So with our friend slop game mechanics, friend slop games are super popular right now, like Peak, like Gamble with your friends, games that you can play together in close proximity with your friends with the microphone so that you can, with proximity chat is where you can only talk within a certain distance of each other.
Right.
So that's a really popular mechanic right now that is just popping off like crazy. Other friend slop games where you're just playing with small lobbies where you can talk to each other. So proximity chat and just small lobbies and interaction. Another huge thing is right here, which we just added in very recently. And this dev tool sheet right here, I made the first day, and now I just have hundreds of commands that I use all the time.
Mm.
But if I press K now, there's this ragdoll mode. So every time we get shot by a spell or we get blown up by a spell, the body just goes limp into ragdoll. So ragdoll mode, proximity chat, ragdoll physics. So if I was to like jump off the edge of the world or get blasted by a spell, this is what people would expect from this genre of game is to their body to go limp or something because it's just popular right now. When you're talking with your friends and they jump off the map and their body goes limp, and they're like, oh, and you could hear their voice fade out as their body's flailing around. It's just really popular mechanics right now. So I
Okay,
was focusing on finding games that already had the sellable working mechanics that we could just iterate and build off of.
I
And
see.
Jared actually had his own game ideas that he wanted to do. So he wanted to do a scavenger hunt game,
Yeah.
and I wanted to do a proximity chat friend slop game.
Okay.
So we met in the middle and ended up with our first few iterations of doing scavenger hunt. It was co-op. It was one item that you go find one item all together. So you have to communicate. The map was huge. So you had to communicate with long form items like walkie talkies and megaphones and binoculars. So you could see each other and communicate from afar, but the map was huge. So the idea was that in order to succeed, you had to communicate. And I ended up doing a couple pitches to CDDA here in Calgary, and we just played and played and played more. And like I said, co-op just became too hard because playtesters said, "What is the point of the game, basically? And what do you do other than finding a few items?" There was just no
This is a
purpose.
great theme, Aidan, in that many sober moments are hitting people using AI that you can have a just infinite amount of AI slop or game slop. And if you don't have that judgment and attention to what people really like and why, then you don't get aesthetic and like
Hmm.
taste.
Yeah.
So what you're describing is dog fooding, observing behavior, and then backing out like what should be in the game. So you get more and more opinionated to then uh, what's in, what's out, and now maybe we can kind of back out of this. Maybe 2 or 3 months ago, you're getting more opinionated. How are you building off of your strong opinions?
So about 2 months ago is probably when we started getting testers, and we wanted to hit deadlines
And maybe I should ask, are you able to share something like VS Code or terminal, like some way to sort of see your
for sure.
file structure? Like just take us into your like work environment where you're assembling your
So this
doc.
is, yeah, I don't care what's seen or what's not seen. So this is for Dropper at this point. So
Okay.
this is just VS Code. I have Claude down here all the time, and I leave my computer on like quite a bit recently, so all this stuff can save, and I can just hop back on and get right into it. But I made this little Claude Sessions VS Code plugin right here, where
Mm.
it shows all of my hello, or it just shows all of my, there we go, active and then recent conversations. So I could just click on one and load it back up again. I have this
Beautiful.
other one called Ace Tools where I could click it and it sets up 5 terminals right here with specific names already. So
Oh
this,
wow.
and they're already split nicely. So this, I don't use this nearly as much anymore, but it was just a couple tools that I made for VS Code to make the development easier. For now, I just hop on, just click plus. I have multiple projects open all the
This
time.
is it's so killer. I have to stop you. This is so killer.
100%. Keep me on
You've
track.
uh you've like rebuilt functionality that's in like Cursor and other like hot IDEs from
Hmm.
doing the work and what you need. And so you've literally, as I just observed there, built VS Code extensions to help you
Hmm.
build.
Yeah,
And I know like for Cursor, just seeing all the sessions um, and like similar IDEs is like quite attractive because now instead of being a developer handcrafting code, working in one, you're orchestrating across many. And so that was awesome. Can you do that again a bit more slowly? Your like VS Code extension and what you built in?
100%. So this, and like I said, I'm not using it as much anymore because I just do, because all of these are running for the most part. So these top three up here are for a different game, but I've been using these four right here the past couple days. And then I
Okay.
always have just a normal PowerShell builder one. So I would rename this. And then most of the time, if I had like 10, 15 terminals too, like you can change colors and you can change icons of these things. So I'll have my builder almost always set to red because when I have 10, 15 terminals and they're all asking different questions and doing different things,
Mm.
I'll split them a lot of the time. So I'll have multiple in one. And then
Yeah.
I have this builder here where I can build to Steam. So the most recent command is Steam. This is what builds to Steam itself. So it's an actual CLI command. So it's not like you go to the Steam database here and upload your game with like an upload button and drag in your files. You actually have to connect to the Steam content builder SDK right here
Yeah. And
and
so
then
just
log
like
in.
before October of last year, you would have done that.
No, I didn't even touch Steam until probably I'm gonna say like May
Okay.
this year. I didn't even know how Steam worked for the most part, but with
Okay.
Fortress Games right now, with our other, well, at this point too, like I have all these skills, like Steam upload skills and everything, where I
Uh-huh.
could just, if I wanted to, I could just say upload to Steam, and it has the exact CLI command right here. It has like where everything's supposed to go. It's a very,
You're
very
you're
simple
going
skill,
so
but
fast right now. It's blowing my mind because there's so much here.
a lot of ground to cover. Well, it'll
Let,
be a few talks.
let me just like recursively work through what you
Let's
said.
do
I'll
it.
just
Let's
like
do
move
it.
backwards and like bring forwards because um, I asked the question like, were you publishing to Steam a different way, assuming you've been publishing a bunch yourself?
Hmm.
You've probably done some publishing before, but now you're publishing to Steam, and also you're doing everything, which is like newer for most developers.
Hmm. So
Uh,
I'm quite familiar with publishing on things like itch.io here. Like I have
yeah,
quite a few of my own games that I've published over the years. So I
yeah,
know very well how itch.io works. But
right.
publishing to Steam, first of all, for to get onto Steam, you need a you need to pay the $100 Steam fee to get
Yeah,
your game launched. And
yeah,
then the $100 Steam fee covers all of the expenses that they would need for your server and for hosting concurrent users and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So you just pay that $100 fee, and then you really got to just get used to the back end of Steam. Like
right.
this is,
And like get used to the
um,
back end of Steam is like the API docs, understand the nuances, what needs to be configured, and at some point you've backed out a skill to do this. Can you go back to VS
mhm,
Code for a moment? I just want to like see that step. So in VS Code, you showed like a whole basket of skills. So
yeah,
um, tell me how you
uh,
did that. Like the first time, presumably it was quite manually. Then you're like, I'm never going to do that again, and you built a skill. Can you just talk about the
exactly.
Steam publishing skill and what you did there?
So with the Steam publishing skill, and for the most part, for all these skills, I learned that with the other Minecraft job too, I don't want to just make a crap ton of bloated skills.
Mm.
Um, I had some buddies tell me that you should determine when you want to build a skill. If you've done something probably two times and you're going to see yourself doing it more, just build a skill for it. So I uploaded to Steam once, and it was a little bit tedious because I had to go find the exact, like where even is it in here? Like this exact CLI command right here. I had to remember or had written down somewhere all the time. I would have to change the login right here sometimes based on the studio, and I would have to change this file right here every time because this is for the Alcurio file. I'm also building Dropper, and I'm also building Zero State Agent. So I made this Steam upload. Notice how it's not called Alcurio upload or Alcurio Steam or Dropper Steam. It's just generally Steam upload. So I can use the same skill from zero state agent and from multiple
So
projects.
from VS Code, having that
Mhm.
skill, you can upload multiple games.
Yeah. Well, for most of these, as you can see, are named El Curio, but and it's under my scavenger hunt project right here, which is
Your
what it was called originally.
your Google Drive
Um,
is telling us that you're maxing your machine here.
yeah, classic. Click the X and ignore that one till next time. So anyways, for making this, so these are all El Curio skills for the most part. There are a few down
Okay.
here, but in my actual project workspace folder
Yeah.
and in my actual Claude folder in the PC on my C drive, there are way more skills and
Yeah.
they're studio specific skills. So this Steam upload and Steam
And let
integration
me
should
pause you
be
there because
moved
that's
out.
like another big item that people are all trying to figure out, and it's something that I'm passionate about, which is some items, skills you're going to have in your project. Some you're going
Hmm.
to have globally installed. Some you might need to just use on demand. You don't want to clutter up a project or your machine, and so you can just use like an NPX for a given skill. Um, have you become more opinionated around, like, I think of skills like your IP. It's like how you want things done
Hmm.
in specific
Hmm.
ways. And so are you more opinionated now about your skills? What do you want in a project? What do you want global?
100%. So I think that again, that comes down to doing what you need a skill once you've done something two or three times. Like it's supposed to be a skill that helps repetitive tasks. You don't need a skill for a one-off thing. Even if you do something once a month, like patch notes, make a skill for it. Like you don't want to manually do. So I made a skill that for zero state agent, because we do patch notes once a week, and I just say slash patch notes or do the patch notes for this week. And it goes through all of the commits. I can actually show, actually, I can't show you that, but all of these commits would have tags on them. So add a tag 0.11, 0.13, 0.14, 0.15. I would say, I would ask my skill, do patch notes for us. It reads all of these commits,
Yeah.
goes in between the tags, and then condenses them and then just spits out a big sheet of patch notes. The same character limit every time, so it doesn't go over 4,000 characters. Same categorizations of enemy fixes, environment fixes, player fixes. So that's something that you need a skill for. And in that case, a patch notes skill, I mean, I've been using it in zero state agent, so it would probably be a zero state agent skill, but I could very easily, I wouldn't do shit myself. I would just say, hey, Claude, I'm using this skill pretty often in other projects. Let's move this out of our zero state agent project into our root workspace folder or our root Claude folder. So it's just iteration, and you could very easily move this stuff back and forth. So I don't think people need to get hung up on where should it go.
Yeah.
It's going to work regardless. If you want it to be more accessible or less accessible, just move it. And if you don't know where to move it, just ask Claude where to move it.
That's great. Um, uh, I want to try to maybe hit like one or two more of these like niche
100%.
um like learned, not the hard way, but just like learned, went through learning cycles, and this is part of your like platform and infrastructure, which is giving you the massive speed ups and capability. Previously you kind of raising like genre and art direction, and those are like thinking slow, like considered, aesthetic, like why are you doing this first place? It helps remove a lot of the noise. Some of these items are like thinking fast. So what would I automate? Um, and so aside from the Steam upload, can you walk us through another one and like why you automated that?
So I don't even think, so Dropper here, as you can see, Dropper itself doesn't have any of its own Claude skills. All of the skills that I've used for Dropper for the most part
Mhm.
are outside of the project because I don't need them specifically for Dropper. And I don't even know where they are in my root folder here, but just in the Claude, in the basic, in your normal drive, user drive in the Claude folder, you'll find all of your marketplace plugins and skills and all that. Um, so in Dropper, there's no skills at all right now, which is nice. But some of the skills that I made outside of this folder in the Claude folder are helping me with the editor tools. So now it doesn't, because I've been using editor tools like crazy. So it doesn't need to review context every time or how do I make this editor tool? Where do I put it every time? So
Mhm.
one of the biggest ones by far for Curio for Dropper right now is how to make these editor tools.
Right.
All of these ones, just came recently. All of these El Curio skills just came very rare, very recently when I updated my documents. So
Yeah,
over the past few weeks, when I went down from 17 gigabytes to 3, I
yeah.
pruned the crap out of all my documents. So all of this marketing now, this marketing is very tuned specifically. Like here's our Steam ID straight to the page. There's the price we want to publish it at.
Yeah.
There's our website, all of our social links, the document map. So here's our marketing go to market, social performance, da da da.
It's all
Um,
referenced and backed up so that you can
exactly.
effectively like render it
Yeah.
out and use the agents as the
Yeah,
interface.
and so this is my most important one right now that I've been working on for a while is Alcurio knowledge base.
Mm,
So this one is a little bit in depth because I have a few skills that are piggybacking off of this skill. So
mm,
every night, sometimes not every night, I will just ask Claude. I have another skill for interrogation. So I would ask Claude, I would say, please interrogate the project for me. And it basically goes through all of the documents that are in here. There's the reference documents, which is for Claude. And then everything else, marketing and the road to Next Fest are for me. They're front facing for me because I was getting so bloated,
mm.
so confused with the bloat of documents. And because there was like literally like hundreds of documents here,
Yeah,
like thousands and thousands of lines, and it wasn't for me at all. So I told Claude, I said, go through all of my documents, update all my skills, update all my documents, and then make them front facing or reference facing just for yourself. So this interrogation skill is a skill that I made specifically for scavenger hunt that can be used for many projects. It does not need to be in the scavenger hunt project here, but I ask it to go through my documents and generate and come up with a question. So how many traders do we have in the main game scene, or what's the maximum cap of players? I get it to brainstorm a question and then go through the documents and try to answer that question itself, and then go through the actual code files and project files and get it to validate that answer 100%. So it generates a question, tries to find the answer, and then tries to validate and prove that answer that it's actually in the game and working. So how many players are in the game? It would go to
one
my
quick sec. This is
documents.
really interesting. It's like I'm like
It's, an,
hearing
it's
your
a
mind.
loop.
Yeah, yeah. You've got like a loop just
Hmm.
for not just
Interrogating.
documentation, but like hardening the strategy.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So, well, it was specifically for hardening of the documents because the documents were so out of place that I would ask it to build this and it would say, do you want to have co-op in this? And it's like, no, we haven't had co-op for months. And I didn't want to also go through every single document and read them all line by line. So one day I made this skill I cleaned up all the documents by first saying, this was a really important day too. I said, give me a huge multiple choice interview and interview me on the project. Ask me as many questions as you can think of. And I spent 2 hours and went A, B, B, C, C, D, multiple choice, answering everything. And then by the end of that, it knew exactly where the project was. It knew it goes up to 6 players. It knows what our social links are. It knew everything. And that only took a couple hours. So that's probably really important to do.
This
I
is
had a
great.
buddy tell me this. He said, whenever you don't know what to do with a skill or whenever you don't know what to ask of Claude, get Claude to interview you. So
Yeah.
I got Claude to interview me based on the project. And after that interview, it had way more of an idea of what the project was. So then I said, okay, with all this in mind, please go document update every single document, prune it, remove it. Like we don't want bloat anymore. And then also make the documents front facing for myself so that I have like marketing material. So I have the caption logs of our short form content. I have the clip logs of when we posted it. These are connected to MCP, so I can just say up on these skills here, like update our marketing logs, and it goes through our recent videos, transcripts them, sends it back here, and updates that.
Incredible.
But
Aiden, I've got to
yeah,
pause you there because this is
please do,
going
please
to
do.
generate another 10 hours of me interviewing you and asking questions. You are something beyond agentic engineer now. This is very much in like the meta harness, and you've got like self-learning loops and improving. I really like as a mental model, like what does the agent need and what do I need? So front and back
Hmm.
facing
Yeah,
documents. So not
and that
just
was
docs,
very
but
recent.
front and back, as well as the getting the agent to interview you is something that we teach in our agentic engineering courses, and try to like ground on source of truth and source of truth changes. Um, I want to pause around just like this and then just flip modes now that we've got a few minutes left to ask, now that you have this IP, how are you imagining game development now? What is game development for you, and like what?
So I'm excited about this portion because now we're just really leading into just developers in general, especially if you're doing it this way, is that you're able to be more intentional and more creative with what you're doing. You don't need to do the tedious UI setup, which takes 2 hours. You need to do it once in Photoshop, send it all into the game. Not only is it set up with the UI and it's skinned properly, the buttons actually work. The sound effects are connected now. Like it's basically what we Unreal and Unity AI is already intending to do, but it's just a little bit ahead of time, and I'm using like a poor man's MCP, so I have a lot of control over it. I see for the next few games here, basically doing the exact same thing that I did with Dropper. We skipped documentation 100% for Dropper. We don't even have a GDD. We knew exactly what our game wanted to be. We knew exactly what art style we wanted. I had free time for a few days because we didn't want to keep iterating on El Curio because I would just get feature creep at this point. So we made a whole new game. I took literally in the first few hours, I had like 80% of the game done. Like other than skinning it, there was a lobby, there was multiplayer, there was chat, there was I already purchased the $100 Steam key. So while all this stuff was I gave it one prompt. I said, "This is the game I want. We have every single feature that I want in this game already working in El Curio. Please just pop over there, grab it, grab all the networking, grab the exact character controller, but strip it down. No double jump, no spells, just a character controller." I
Mm,
said, "Give me the selfie view camera so I can swap cameras around." Everything that I wanted, I just said, "Go grab it now."
right.
And then
You
if I
can,
didn't have an El Curio, we moved it over to our studio repository. So now we're just coming up with what we want. We came up with the idea. We were super intentional with it. And then instead of grabbing all these assets and all this crap and then having to backtrack later on, the this dropper project right now to download off Steam is only 150 megabytes,
mm,
the entire game. So it built the entire game. It's incredibly, incredibly lean. Like not a single asset, I don't think that we're not using, and all basically because we had the pre-made infrastructure and prefabs from a singular other project.
right.
So in 6 months to a year, when now I'm also I have tools that can go through Unity games and scrape Unity games, and tools that can scrape like Steam database and stuff like that. So I'm going to be in the future here creating loops where I go to bed and it studies these games and it studies the mechanics and it tries to make the mechanics and then puts it into our studio database. So that basically, like you, I could just wake up every morning and have like a new game to test would be super awesome. So the idea is to just iterate off of previous things that we've made, continue really refining our documentation. Like you said, skills, and at this point is IP. So just really refine the heck out of all of these skills.
Mm,
The interview processes, the loops, the interrogations are all kick ass right now.
mm.
So just continue refining at this point. Honestly, continue building and refining and validating, importantly.
Very cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing where you're at and the learnings and getting like into this level of detail. We'll get the Steam link over into YouTube so that people can play the game. Other ways to reach you?
Right now, we'll just do El Curio. For the most part, we're working on these two games. We hope our studio pops off enough that we're known by our studio name. So, but
Yeah,
for now, just follow El Curio.
amazing. And we'll get the like you got TikTok and Instagram I saw on there, so we'll get those handles as well so people can
Yes, sir.
find those pages. Amazing. Thank you, Aiden. Real pleasure to
Well,
get to go
well,
through it
thank
today.
you, man. I would love to pop into another one of you guys' discussions in the future here and see where I'm at
You bet.
and chat with you guys.
That's really hot. From vibe coding to agentic engineering to this like meta harness level work. And as you're describing, the next step imminent is factory level. All the jobs, the job
Yeah.
descriptions, the
Hmm.
scripts and tasks, verification loops for like quality control and quality assurance
Hmm.
in parallel is how I think about AI factory. To get to there, a ton of human judgment is needed step by step so that you're handcrafting it and getting it verified and then able to assemble into workflows and then into production lines is really, really something.
I
Awesome.
agree. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Aiden. We'll stop for today. See you soon.
Sounds good, man. See you soon.